Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. My name's John Zindel. I'm with Dom Scarcella. We have been watching WWE Smackdown every Friday night for the last 3 months and have decided to grade some of the wrestlers here. Just to go ahead and explain the grading system, Dom, let's kick it to you.
We've had a great time watching since the end of September. We decided to give out grades A, B, C, D. We kind of all know what those are. A are your all around performers. John, if you and I were just going to grade guys, we would probably just do what do they wrestle like in the ring. But SmackDown's episodic television. To get an A, we have to take into account character development and mic work, the kind of things that can instigate a storyline and drive an angle forward. So A is your all-around performers. B's are above average guys, but just a little below the A's. A good word to keep in mind for B is belts. If you've got a championship belt, you should grade at least here. C, this is where most of us are in our job. We're competent. That's a good word that starts with C, but we're also changeable. We can be replaced. Hey, it doesn't mean that these wrestlers don't belong on TV. They fulfilled their roles, but if they were off TV for a while, you probably don't miss them. Not a bad thing. It's just, hey, that's the competition for getting on TV and SmackDown and Raw and the WWE's premier products. And then D, D is below average. A good word here is detractor or detract. These are people who, when they get on the screen, there's a flaw that's noticeable that's kind of taking away from the show. And then, of course, there's a lot of wrestlers who are listed on the SmackDown roster on WWE's official site, but we either haven't seen them wrestle or they've been doing most of their work on another program other than SmackDown. So those are going to be incompletes. We're really not going to go through a lot of the incompletes, but we are going to mention just a couple because they're big names. That's how we're grading. So, John, let's jump into it. Hey, before I say that, let's like, subscribe, and comment. We are also planning to do deeper dives on other on some of these wrestlers that we're talking about. For this video here, we're trying to do TED Talk and just get everybody onto the grading grid. If you like what we're saying, tell us. If you disagree with us, tell us that too. This is the fun of doing these list type, grade type shows. I'm excited. John, you look excited. So don't bury the lead, John. Give us someone who grades as an A.
Perfect. Thanks, Dom, and thanks for the handover here. Um, Maybe the first one last year you wouldn't have ever thought this would be, but has had a fantastic run for the last 3 months. It's going to be Sami Zayn. Um,
Sami Zayn.
has been fantastic both in the ring and out of the ring. Always was a good worker, and has that indie background where he's really strong in the ring, but has really found his stride with the Bloodline, both as a comedic act, but somebody you actually pull for. It seems like you're genuinely pulling for him. He plays the character so well, and every SmackDown he's been wildly entertaining to the point where the rest of the Bloodline is sometimes corpsing and laughing while he's doing his promos. So the crowd,
Demi
he's
gets
way
an A.
over, and he's for us. Both Dom and I agreed an A.
Agreed. And it's such a well-rounded character, the guy who can drive that storyline forward. But he's in the Bloodline and he's not alone there. He's had a wonderful foil in someone else in that Bloodline. It's actually two guys who we also think merited an A. Who's that?
So we're going to give an A to Jimmy and Jay Uso, the Uso brothers. Fantastic tag team. Again, much like Sami Zayn here, excellent inside of the ring and outside the ring. I can remember their old character was like kind of islandery, but they've really stepped their game up. They're like kind of like thug gangsters now, and their characters are just really believable. like they are kind of scary, both these guys. And they're both, Jay's a big hothead, and they're really good at in the ring. And then as the bloodlines developed here, they've just been knocked this out of the park. So Jimmy, Jay, Uso, though they are also getting an A.
Yeah, so the Usos have been, we will agree, the most well-rounded champions that we've seen on SmackDown. Like they've been in the A storyline, they've developed their characters. So now let's get to the B grades where we're going to see a lot of belts, as we should. So, John, do you have somebody who you'd say is a really high B, maybe somebody knocking on the door to possibly being an A? What do you got?
When we talked in the studio, I said Gunther actually, and I'll move him up here. We're going to talk about Gunther. Gunther feels like somebody that could have been an A, but we're going to leave him at B right now. But he's definitely trending up. From my perspective, I think he's the best worker
Yes.
on the roster,
Yes.
and he really has done a great job to elevate that Intercontinental title. He's been in some pretty good storylines. Maybe what's holding him back a little bit is we haven't seen a ton from his personality just yet on the mic. And I think that will come with time because his in-ring work and his presence is excellent. So
They're
Gunther,
already trying to give him more opportunities to do that. So that's he's knocking on the door. He's knocking on the door. So
right.
I'm gonna go. I've got somebody here who apparently had a belt very early on, maybe in our viewing stint when we started here. But I mean, this wrestler's character has grown since getting rid of the belt, and I'm gonna say Liv Morgan deserves a B. She has that. She's an instigator on the mic with her character, and in the ring, she delivers. I mean, she moves so fluidly around the ring. She's practically like a luchador in there. She drives storylines, and she can do the payoff in a match as well. Liv Morgan. Who do you got next? I mean, we may be getting into some controversy here. I don't know. I don't know if this is the first time that somebody's going to yell at us in the comments here, but I think you might have somebody else up for a B that is going to rub some people the wrong way. Oh, is that Roman Reigns?
Yeah.
Roman Reigns, the undisputed Universal Champion, a B.
A B. Um, you know, he's a guy that's trending up and could be an A. Really good, always a great presence when he comes out, and he comes out with Paul Heyman and the rest of the bloodline. Like he definitely looks like a champ. He has been really improving on his promos over the years, and has that kind of works alongside with Paul Heyman. Him and Heyman have great chemistry to deliver the promos, but we haven't seen him wrestle yet. So whenever we watch SmackDown, he never wrestles. And I understand that they want to protect him and save him, and he may even have some health issues. But
Yes.
we don't see him wrestle that often on SmackDown. And that's why we have him at a B. He could easily, like, if we saw him wrestle a little bit more than we do now, I'm not saying he has to wrestle every week, but we just really never see him in the ring. So
No,
as far
he
as
admitted
SmackDown,
earlier this year that he's got to be a part-time wrestler because of his real life gets in the way, folks. He's got a real life medical condition. He can only be a part-time wrestler. So, we're not grading whether or not we like the guy. We're not grading his career. This is not, a lifetime achievement award. We're grading what we've seen since we've been watching. And Roman Reigns, great presence, but he's done 1.5 pay-per-view matches in the 3 months we've been watching. So he's got to be B. And I'm gonna throw somebody out there now who's kind of in the opposite boat there. I'm gonna say that the women's SmackDown Tag Champions, Dakota Kai and Io Sky of Damage Control, also get a B. And for the opposite reason, they're solid in the ring. But they don't do a lot of their own promo work and driving their own storylines. So, they're worthy. They've been worthy champions, but Bayley has been really doing their mic work for them. She's almost like their manager, even though she's an active wrestler. So Dakota Kai and Io Sky, they're maybe a low B, but I'd say they grade out as a B. They've got belts and they're not making them look silly. So I'm going to grade them as a B.
Perfect. Yeah. When we talk about Reigns, he's probably like a B plus and pushing that A level, but they're right on that B. I'd say an
Mhm.
even B for
Sure.
damage control here.
Yeah, not
So
everybody who gets the same grade, and we're not saying they're exactly the same. Like
mhm,
grades are a range.
yeah.
Like there's high B's, there's solid B's, there's maybe teetering B's. Like, but these are the people who are clearly above average.
Next one, I'm gonna take over here. Um, we started watching and we saw a lot of Ricochet, and we saw him lose a lot. But in those losing efforts, he was putting together pretty good matches. And sort of toward the end, I guess like the last month or so, he won the World Cup, which is a tournament they
Mhm.
had that was actually pretty cool.
Yes.
So he won that World Cup, and then he had the best match we've seen on TV in the last couple months with
Yep.
Gunther and Ricochet. So
Yep.
we're gonna give a B to Ricochet. For me, the fact that he's willing to kind of take those losses and be a good worker throughout those losses, that probably tells you a little bit about like his character. Because in real life, like he's actually willing to go out there and do all those jobs, if you will.
Mhm.
But he, for me, is really good technically in the ring, and he's got the high flyer thing down. But it's not. But he pulls it off. I think a lot of guys are high flyers, but they
Mhm.
look like they're doing gymnastics. He, on the other hand, looks like a wrestler. He looks like a competitor. So
He looks like a wrestler, and it at this level, if you can lose and put other guys over while looking strong yourself, you're above average and you're valuable. You are not replaceable. Not when you're doing that kind of work. So Ricochet has no belt, but yeah, I'd say he's a B. And for the last guy I'm going to bring out there, I gave out one more B, and this may be some more controversy. Go ahead and at me in the comments if you don't like it. But yeah, let me talk to you. LA Knights had a couple of good matches that we've seen, including one with Ricochet. Um, but so we know he can go in the ring if he gets more opportunity. But his mic work has been stellar for a guy who seems to be very new to WWE in this run. His character has rounded into form very well. He has breathed some much needed life into the Bray Wyatt return angle. Like that Bray Wyatt angle needed something, and that something has been LA Knight. I mean, at this point, he's showing himself to be not easily replaceable. He's above average. We should see him in the ring more soon, but until we get to see him in the ring again, yeah, let me talk to you.
yeah, LA Knight for
So,
sure is somebody you were interested in because you had known him from previous work he's done, and I didn't know
mhm,
who he was, but he's definitely impressed, certainly on the mic, and he's in an interesting storyline. We hope that goes somewhere.
yeah.
Uh,
And I
so
got to tell you, I'm surprised that his mic and character have progressed so quickly while they're not wrestling. So he's a well-rounded guy. I mean, he when we do this in the future, if he sticks around and we stick around doing this, he could be anywhere on this list. But for now, a solid B. Um, and so we gave out two A's, six B's. We're going to give out two D's. There are 14 C's. We're going to skip the C's for a minute just because the C's, hey, they're replaceable. They're not as interesting as some of the people who need some help. Let's jump down to the D's for a second because we've been talking about B is for belt. We've got somebody to mention from amongst the title holders who unfortunately has some flaws here. So let me throw that to you here because when we were going over this in the studio, you threw out a name almost right away when we got to D. So why
yeah,
don't you tell our audience who you're talking about?
yeah, it's Ronda Rousey. Uh, Not mad, just disappointed, really, with her.
D
Um,
is for disappointed.
D for disappointed. She is a great MMA fighter. She's a huge star. It completely made sense. And she just is a bad wrestler. She's just bad in the ring. There's several botches a match. None of her matches are smooth. Um, everything she's done. And at first she had a match with Liv Morgan. I thought maybe Liv Morgan isn't that good. And then we saw Liv Morgan wrestle Sonya Deville, and it was a good match. Then she wrestled Shotzi Blackheart, and her and Shotzi, another match just loaded with botches, and the crowd's not into it. So Ronda Rousey, just disappointing at this point, and don't know if her head's out of it. Like, she doesn't seem to really know what she's doing in there. So I don't know if she's not practicing enough, or if she just doesn't have a sense of what to do in there and isn't meant to be there. But Ronda Rousey's going to get a D. And then
And it's because she has a belt, really, right? Because if they didn't throw the belt on her and then have to push her and put her on TV so often, she could be a C. She could be someone who we say, all right, her character is good enough where she might be competent. She's a low C. She can hide for a while and get better. But she's got the belt, so she's got to be out there, and the flaws show. It's like you said, we're not mad. We don't hate her. We actually kind of like her. She seems to get the character stuff, but there are flaws that need to be corrected. And speaking of which, we've got another D here who doesn't have a belt, but they got a title shot, and we were both surprised that they got this because they don't look like the people you would think would be in that kind of mix. Who else gets a D here from us?
So we get another D, and it's going to be all of Hit Row. I only have Top Dollar here, but I was like, I'm not even going to really save the images of the other people. That you'll understand, like the whole Top Dollar or the whole Hit Row thing, and Top Dollar specifically, really bad in the ring. And I've said this in other shows. It kind of reminds me of somebody after an indie wrestling show. There's usually one drunk guy that stumbles into the ring when everybody's done, and he just like starts doing a couple moves, and like, he's having a good time in there, but he doesn't really know what he's doing, and he's like doing back bumps and trying to do like whatever crazy moves in there while you're trying to get everybody to leave the show after the indie show. It's just some drunk fan, and that's what he feels like when he's in there. He's had pretty terrible botches. One specifically where he tried to do a dive and he just stumbled outside of the ring and didn't hit anybody. He's got a really strange moveset. And yeah,
it's the whole group. At no time have Hit Row come out and I've thought to myself, oh, I'm really anticipating this segment. It's always been like, oh, okay, it's a little cringe. Like, they're getting a lot of TV time and there are some flaws there that need to be corrected.
Yeah, so that's Hit
a
Row,
D.
and that's a D. And this is really
that's it. I see two pictures down there at the bottom. These are two people we gave incomplete to, but we've mentioned them. That's is that Bray Wyatt?
Yeah, let's
and
move
Bailey.
on to
Bray Wyatt gets an incomplete because we haven't seen him wrestle. Of course, if he gets in the ring, he has the talent to be all the way up to A. But he hasn't wrestled yet, and his character development in this comeback has dragged for a bit. So we need to see a lot more from Bray before we give him any sort of grade. And Bailey's another person who could be an A, but she's doing most of her work on Raw. Most of what she's been doing on SmackDown has been helping Damage Control kind of be their talker, kind of the way Paul Heyman is for Roman Reigns for a while before Roman developed. So Bailey's impressive to me, but she's doing her best work not on SmackDown. So I just don't think we're comfortable giving her a grade when her best stuff is on another program. But they deserve mention as great talents. Maybe our viewers are thinking about, hey, what about Bailey? What about Bray? But that's where we got them. They're incomplete for what we've seen these last 3 months, but they're on the radar. They're on the radar. Now, we did mention that most of the grades we gave out are C's. And let me just run down quickly all those names, and maybe we'll just pick out a couple and talk about something we're seeing. But hey, C, you're competent, but you're replaceable. That's life. That's most of us in our jobs, right? It's no different on SmackDown. I'm talking Raquel Rodriguez, Braun Strowman, New Day, Kaiser and Vinci of Imperium, Shayna Baszler, Solo Sikoa, the Brawling Brutes, including Sheamus, The Viking Raiders and Legado del Fantasma, two recent tag teams. Karrion Kross, Drew McIntyre. Some of the women wrestlers, Shotzi, Sonya Deville, Emma. A lot of names out there. Anybody stand out to you that we've graded as a C, but who you could see moving?
Yeah, great point. I think there's a lot of C, and that's competent, and that's okay, right? There's going to be a lot of C's, but
That's what the distribution's supposed to look like. A
yeah,
few A's, more B's, most people are C's, and if you got a problem, you admit there's a couple of D's. But
hmm
yeah, this is what
So
it's supposed to look like.
for me, a C is Solo Sikoa. That could easily, I could see in a couple months or even like a year or so, getting into that B level. He's in the bloodline, which has been awesome, but he's sort of like a backing character that supports everybody else in the bloodline.
Mhm.
And I like the direction he's headed, and I like that they're not pushing him so hard. Uh, right now, he's a C. Could easily see him become a B, but he's had some good progress considering he's so young and new to pro wrestling. How
Okay,
about
I'm
you,
going to take the opposite tack here.
Dom? Okay.
I'm going to say Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. These
Okay.
are well-developed characters who they've been top title holders in WWE. And they've got a history of grading higher, but for these past 3 months, they've been used in fairly replaceable roles. And so for that, they've been relegated to they're competent, they belong on TV, but when they're missing for several weeks, we don't really miss them unless one of them's your favorite. And we can even say the same thing about New Day. They're now wrestling for the NXT tag titles.
Mhm.
And those are more guys who, maybe a few years ago you'd say, oh, these guys would never rate that low. But hey, they belong on TV. But Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, New Day, they can be changed in and out. We got to be fair about this. What we've seen these last 3 months, they're C's. They're not D's, but they're not B's.
Yes. Totally. Yeah, totally agreed. Lots of C's and interesting, kind of take there on some of these more veteran wrestlers that are sitting at C.
And we're
So
doing a deeper dive on a lot of these guys in other videos. Like, subscribe, comment, hit the notifications so you get those. We're going to try and get those other videos up and link to them in the description of this main grading video. And we'll try and cross link those as we get them produced. If you disagree with us, John and I, we kind of agree on most stuff here. And when we don't, it's an interesting conversation we can talk about. If you disagree, give us that interesting conversation below. Comment, tell us why. Don't just call us morons. We already know we're morons, okay? Like, yeah, you're not breaking any news there.
yes.
We're wrestling fans. We're just talking. Give us your take down below. Did we screw up anything? Are you surprised? Do you agree? Did you find something really insightful here? We want to hear from you. It's been a
Perfect.
great 3 months. We're getting a little more traction, likes, followers, comments. We love hearing from you guys. We read every single one and we look through what you guys are saying when you're saying it. So thank you very much for that.
And
I'm going to grade us. I don't know what they're going to grade us, the viewers are, but I'm going to grade this experience as an A. This has been a lot of fun.
perfect. Well, Dom, thanks for jumping on with me here. We're trying something a little bit unique. We're here every Friday night. We'll be reviewing or recapping SmackDown. We go live, and we're going to continue to create content. So, thanks for watching us, guys, and have a nice rest of your day or evening. And thank you so much.